I'm late. Um, I'll wait for everybody, for some people to get in here. I'll tell you why I'm late. And I don't have a snake on me just yet, but I'll get there. And I'm drinking Pepsi. I know it's not Pepsi with snakes, but I got some coffee brewing over there. So hopefully in a minute I'll be on the coffee. I had I'm having some equipment difficulties this morning. I cannot find my MacBook anywhere. Anywhere. I've looked all over my place for it. I'm not sure where I put it. I don't think anybody stole it. People don't come to my house that aren't trustworthy, so I don't think it's stolen. I'm just having problems remembering where I put it apparently. And I have, before you suggest, I have thought about the last time I used it, and it was on. I was working on Darwin's episode, and I'm not sure where I went with it after that. So yeah, I don't have the chat in front of me this morning, but I think I got a little bit of help over here because Melody is actually here today. So I think she's going to kind of help me with the chats and trying to keep up with what everybody's talking about. I had an agenda this morning. I had some bulletin points I'm going to talk about because I had some friends that recently got some new snakes and got some really bad advice from, Petco or the big box pet stores. So I kind of wanted to talk about um, how I was going to be able, or I'm sorry, what I was going to talk about was how we're gonna, how you should house your new snake, and like some of the beginner mistakes that are made by new snake owners. So that's what I was going to talk about this morning. But I don't know where my MacBook is, and that's where my bulletins are at. I've been working on that all week because I've been answering questions for everybody. So yeah, maybe I'll be able to pull that out here soon. I'll see what I can do about getting over here. So who's all with us this morning? Candy. Look, Candy, I went live. Candy is our moderator, and she's texting me this morning like, "Where are you?"
He was freaking out.
I'm freaking out. I can't find my MacBook anywhere, and that's pretty important. That's where I do all my editing and everything. So it kind of is. It's a little nerve wracking, but I'm sure I'll find it. I'm sure I will. Um, I'm hoping some of these. Yeah, I was. I know. So sometimes I miss because I'm diabetic, and I wake up and I'll be like diabetic sick, and I think I've missed a couple of live streams for that. So I know Candy was worried that that was going on, that something was going on with my health, but I just lost my MacBook and I can't find it anywhere, and it's so frustrating, guys. Oh my God. So let's get a snake out, right? We should get a snake out. There's coffee with snakes. Um, Good morning, Red Bull Princess. Good morning. Glad to see you here this week. I was just explaining to everybody that I lost my MacBook. I can't find it, uh, but I'm gonna get there. Right, I'll find it. It's here. It's here somewhere. I'm just an idiot sometimes and can't remember what I do when I put things away. So, um, yeah, I probably should have streamed off this other device so I could have pulled up my bullet points on my phone here. Um, okay, I keep seeing these little, I don't know what those things are in the chat there. Anyways, so you guys check out the background for a second. I need to brew a cup of coffee if you want to just hang out for a sec. And I'm going to grab a snake too. Yeah, I probably did bury it with something else. It's in something somewhere, and I don't know. I'm not, I'm not sure what I did with it.
It looked like
Yeah, my whole place, my whole apartment is tore apart right now. Um, and I can't, I don't know. I don't know what I did with it. So, guys, I'm gonna throw on some music real quick. I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee, chat amongst yourself for just a second, check out the background. Um, I suppose since I'm short playing it this week, so you guys still don't know what's in this enclosure, okay? But I'll give you another hint. I'll give you another clue on what's in this enclosure here, because she's sleeping. So I'll give you a hint. I fed her a quail egg for the first time yesterday. Okay, so she's an egg eater too. All right, so she eats small mammals, birds, eggs, rats, stuff like that. So there's another clue as to what she is. Um, Darwin, I've been working on his episode, and that'll be out this week as soon as I find my MacBook because it's pretty much complete. So that'll be out this week, and then I'll be able to bring him on the show all the time, and I can start working on her episode, and then I can show you what she is. Excuse me. Not a lot of people have that particular species of snake, so it's gonna be a little exciting, I think. And yeah, so give me just a second. I'm gonna go brew some coffee and grab a snake. Okay, hang on. What do you guys think? Al Green? Alexa, shuffle Al Green.
Shuffling, this is Al Green from Sam's Spotify.
Yeah, that sounds good. I hope everybody had a great week. Again, I apologize that the live stream was a little flustered this morning. But we're here. We're doing it. What do you guys think? Mojo? Should I get Mojo? Don't make fun of my pajama pants. This is Coffee with Snake's live stream. So this is like in the morning. So I feel like part of my attire should be like my robe. Not really. I don't dress up for it. I just come out and do my live stream.
Whatever you're wearing.
Mojo. Good morning, Mojo. Hi, big guy. Good buddy. Oh, I know. Mojo is not used to me getting him out of his hide like this.
He usually comes out on
He
his
usually
own.
he's a free roamer, so he comes out on his own. But let's get Mojo. Here he is.
No.
Here he is. All right, what are we doing?
Baby, nobody's here.
I'm doing chamomile tea again this morning. We are in light rain, but expecting possible severe weather later. Oh, we are supposed to be cloudy all day, and I think the temperature is going to be 80 degrees. So it's going to be pretty warm here today. I'm going to try to get out and do some herping at some point today. I want to get up to the nature preserve and do something interesting because it's that time of year. I really should be out hunting mushrooms,
But I'm broken.
but I haven't been able to do that yet. Here you go, Mojo. There you go. So whenever I get my snakes out, I try to do this. I try to put them around my neck so they know what's going on. And she said that she's glad you're doing okay. They butchered the chamomile. So this is Mojo. Say good morning, Mojo. Yeah, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. Mojo is Mojave, fire clown, ball python, and he's one of my favorite hangout buddies. He just, most of the time he just hangs out with me. I got him out of his hive this morning, so I'm not really sure how he's gonna take that. He might be a little rude with me. You okay, buddy? All right. Okay, Alexa, stop. All right. So, I guess since I don't have my bulletin points, we can still kind of talk about what are some of the common mistakes that people make when getting a new ball python. A lot of times you get advice from the pet store, like Petco. When I say pet store, I mean big box pet stores, like Petco is PetSmart, stuff like that. Maybe you have another store in your town, I'm not sure. But when getting reptiles from places like that, they are not necessarily reptile keepers, right? A lot of times they're people that just put in an application for a job and they're given these basic rundown, outdated husbandry rules for the reptiles, and they kind of get thrown in that department. And they may have never owned a reptile in their life. So they have no idea what it's like to pay attention to husbandry and what the basic rules are of taking care of exotic animals. Now, there are tons of exotic animals that get sold at pet stores, right? Tons. And, bearded dragons, geckos, anoles, ball pythons especially, milk snakes, garter snakes, stuff like that. These common animals that you see in pet stores, right? So, but the most common one that is sold across the entire country are ball pythons. More ball pythons are sold than almost any other exotic pet, next to uh, iguanas and geckos, right? Like those move a lot. And maybe I'm overstating my place here because my friends that are pet store owners, they probably have a better idea of what's more common. But we all know ball pythons are the most commonly owned snake as a pet, right? So let's kind of concentrate on the basic husbandry when you get your new snake, and the bad advice that Petco gives you or PetSmart. Now, when you go and you purchase a snake at like Petco or PetSmart, right? They're almost always on Aspen bedding. Um, they had the little stick-on thermometers in the tank, and that may be showing some ratio of correctness, but these stick-on monitors are really, really bad and they don't really work correctly. So you really need to get something that's more exact and more digital. What are you doing, Mojo? Are you telling me a secret? No? Okay. Um, really need to get a reputable thermostat. I use digital thermostats, and I'll put a link to what they are, but I don't think you can get them anymore where I was getting them from. So, but there are tons, you can go on Amazon and find tons and tons of correct thermometers, hygrometers, stuff like that. Because when you're keeping a ball python, you need to have your temperatures need to be right, your humidity needs to be within a good range for them to be happy. Now, a lot of times, I've had people say that, when they're getting their snake from Petco, they say, "Oh, here's some Aspen bedding. Here's this tank. You know, here's there you can buy kits, right? That have these stick-on stupid thermometers, and they have like one hide in them. But the thing is that they don't understand is that like your ball python especially needs two hides, right? You need to have a hide on the hot side, and you need to have a hide on the cool side. Okay, and on the hot side, by hot and cool, what we mean is you are providing a temperature gradient across your enclosure, right? Across your entire enclosure. And on your warm side is kind of that's where you want to put your heat, right? And your heat should be, if you're new, should be like a CHE or a radiant heat panel. Stay away from bulbs that produce light and heat. You're not going to need that. That's not healthy for a good ball python environment. You need your light to be independent of your heat, right? Because your light is going to work on a 12-hour on-off cycle, and your heat is going to run all the time. So I suggest a CHE on one side or a radiant heat panel on one side of your enclosure. Whether it be the right or the left, you want to keep that heat to one side, because what that's going to do is, as you set your thermometer about 82, 85 degrees, is it's going to keep it 82, 85 degrees on the warm side, and it'll cool off over on the cool side, where you will have another hide, right? And your cool side should be right around 76 degrees. So so now you have two sides temperature gradients, right? 82, 85, 76 approximately on the cool side. Now you want to have a hide on both sides so your snake can hide and regulate its temperature at the same time. Ball pythons are really reclusive and they don't like to be seen a whole lot. They're not really social, like come out into the open, and they're not like puppies. They're not going to come when you call. They kind of like to be hidden, and that makes them feel secure. And that's important when you have a snake, and if you want it to grow healthy and be socialized, right? Like um, bad husbandry leads to sickness, illness, antisocial behavior. It can put them off of food. There's still a lot of things that can go wrong when you're caring for your ball python. Um, so you typically on both sides of that enclosure want those sides to kind of match. They don't have to match. A lot of people say they need to match so your snake can recognize it, but your snake recognizes a place to hide. So I don't think that's such a big deal to make both of the hides match. And maybe somebody has a different reason why they should match, but I haven't really had that problem. I have different hides, different types of hides because I like to experiment with different things and make my snakes go through different things so they can figure things out and use their brains a little more, and that creates a more socialized snake. So I don't think it's so important that the hides match, but it is important that you have a hide on both sides at least, and that's going to allow them to, adjust the temperature as they need it. So it makes it their choice, basically, for your snake. And as far as bedding goes, never use aspen, and here's why. Aspen is really dry, and when you try to add moisture to it, it grows mold really, really quick. It sticks to your prey items, so when your snake eats, it gets the substrate in its mouth, and aspen specifically can cause blockage, right, for your snake, so then it can't digest its food properly. So aspen's a really bad bedding to start off with a ball python. Now, if you have a more arid snake, that's different, right? My bull snake, I could keep her on aspen, she'd be fine, right? My king snake, I could keep him on aspen, he'd be fine. They both have, but these are arid snakes where they can take a drier environment, so I don't have to add moisture to their substrate, risking growing mold in their enclosure and creating a unhealthy environment, possibly risking a respiratory infection. So I'm not saying aspen is bad for all snakes or for all animals. It's not. But what I'm saying is for your ball python, you're going to want something like Reptibark, Reptichip, Cocoa Coir, dirt. I use my main ingredient, my substrate is topsoil or Reptisoil, and I mix in cypress mulch, forest flooring, Reptibark, just all this stuff, because what I'm trying to create is a natural substrate that you would find in the forest, right? And what are you going to find on the forest floor? Broken sticks, buried sticks, chunks of wood, leaves, stuff like that, all mixed in that substrate. So that's how I set my substrate up. And where you going, Mojo? I know you're just hanging. It's cool, buddy. Where you going, buddy? All right. So now we've talked about bedding, right? We've talked about hides. We talked about correct temperature gradients, right? The next biggest thing I think people make a mistake with is feeding. Especially with new snake owners, they're really nervous. They're unsure about what size of prey they should be offering their ball python. They're unsure of what type of prey, what size, what type, what temperature, live, frozen, thawed. There's a lot of different questions to be answered there, right? So let's start with the type of prey, okay? Ball pythons will eat mice, small rodents. In the wild, they're opportunistic eaters, right? So they will eat a mouse, and they'd probably eat a small chick if you offered it to them. Some will. But a lot of new ball python owners start off feeding their snakes mice, right? Fuzzies, pinkies, depending on the size of we'll talk about prey size in a minute, depending on the size of your snake. So my suggestion is, as soon as I have my babies and I know the breeders that I know that I've gotten them from, right? The ones that I know personally, as soon as they're able to, they're feeding them rat pinkies, right? Little rat pups. Because rats are a more nutritious meal for a ball python rather than a mouse. Mouse is fine. If that's all you can get at your local pet store, that's fine. That's what your snake has to eat. That's what you have. Do that. Hope this live stream don't get taken down because of that logo. Anyways, obviously you want your snake to eat. You need to feed it a prey item once a week until it's an adult. At that point, then we start talking about different timing for your grown ball pythons because they eat less regular. So I always start mine off with rats. I keep mine on rats because I have easy access to them. I'm fortunate enough to have a few different options. you know, I get all my feeders from my favorite pet store, Pittsburgh. And if for something happens with them, I can always go to Lane Labs online and order from there. But I try to stay away from like the Arctic mice brands just because I've never had a personal bad experience with them, but I know people that have. So I kind of try to stay away from that unless it's an emergency. And then I haven't really had one of those yet. So, um, but rats are what you want to feed them. And when you're talking about prey size, now it's a rule of thumb, and I'm sure if you've watched any other videos on owning ball pythons or anything like that, you know, you've probably seen where they say, well, look at the size of your snake, right? Look at the belly of your snake, right? So Mojo here, let's talk about Mojo. He's chilling. I don't want to move him. But you can see the size of Mojo. Mojo gets a small rat every week. Once a week, he gets a small rat. And he's still growing. Now, when he becomes an adult, he'll get a small rat every 2 weeks, every 10 days. Um, Mary Jane, she's one of my full-grown ball pythons. She gets a medium rat every 2 weeks. That's it. That's it. So, I mean, looking at the body size, you kind of want to say, is that going to fit down there? Is that going to fit? You know, and them swelling a little bit, that's fine. But that's how you're going to decide what prey item, what size of prey item you're going to give your ball python. Because you don't want to feed them too big, because then you're power feeding them, and that can really, you know, it can cause regurgitation, it can cause bad body conditions, it cause them to, you okay over there? All right. It can cause them to be more reclusive, so, and or be scared of their prey because it's so big. And yes, that does happen. So they'll refuse it. You want to make sure that your snake eats every week. What are you doing? You ready to go? You can't. Get your head out of there. Jeez. This dude. But that's basically, you can weigh your snake, you know, and you guys are talking about feeding down here. Post pics in the member area when you have time. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I can't keep up with the chats today, guys. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to kind of keep talking about what my points that I wanted to make today. Okay, so Mojo here, he's almost a full-grown male. So he's going to eat, like I said, a small rat, you know, and I always feed him frozen thawed for the most part. I have some snakes, a couple of them that refuse frozen thawed, and that's fine. I'll try to get them back on there, try to work with them to get them on frozen thawed. And the reason I use frozen thawed is for two reasons. One, it's more humane for the prey item, right? You're not putting something alive in there that has to suffer through its death and get choked out and all that. So it's more humane for the rat. I understand some keepers, you know, it's cool to watch them eat. I get it, right? But for me, I'm always about loving animals, regardless of what they are. And just because I feed my snakes rats doesn't mean that I don't like rats or they're my enemy, right? They deserve to live too and procreate and all that neat stuff that we're supposed to do. But, excuse me. I need to go get my coffee. Geez, what was I saying? Okay, I remember. It's been a long morning, you guys. If you're here in the beginning of the live stream, you know. Okay, so anyways, rats are going to be the best, and healthiest meal for your ball python, right? As your ball python grows, you're going to up the size of prey items that you're going to give them. If they're babies, you know, like I said, I start them off on pinkies. Is usually what I give them, pinky rats. And Mojo, you okay, buddy? Oh, come here. Come here for a second, bud. There we go. He keeps trying to climb in the bar on my chair back here. It's pretty cool. So, he's slick. So anyways, where we at? Prey items. We were talking about prey items. So, okay, so yeah, my full-grown snakes, full-grown females get a medium rat every 2 weeks. And my full-grown males get a small rat about every 10 days. So that's how I go about feeding them. And you just kind of, for new ball python owners, if you just bought a baby, feed it pinky rats or fuzzies, right? You can look at the size of your snake and you can tell. I think the rule of thumb is something like 10% of their body weight or something like that. I've never been one to really weigh. Okay, you do that for a minute. Let's see what Mojo does here. What are you gonna do? Dude, you know, you're a ball python, and ball pythons aren't good climbers. You're gonna fall. You're gonna fall, dude. Come here. Come here. Come here, buddy. I know. You just want to go explore. I've been since I've been free roaming Mojo, he's been just crazy about running around the house. He loves it. So okay, so we covered hides, we covered substrate, right? We talked about food. I'll do a more extensive episode on this. I can't really see the chat, so I don't know if anybody's asking questions, but if you have questions about what I'm talking about, post them in the chat and I'm trying to catch it. I've got about that much of chat feed that I can see. So we're flying blind this morning. Anyways, okay, so we talked about those things. The next thing is clutter, right? You want to make your ball python feel really secure in their enclosure. They want to feel like when they're in their enclosure, nothing's going to mess with them. Now, on all my enclosures, you can see I have my PVCs back here, but I also have some glass enclosures in there with some of my smaller snakes in it. Now, when I have glass enclosures like that, I'll always choose a front end opening enclosure. They do open from the top, but I don't ever go in from the top because it's going to stress my snakes out. And it's going to make them hide. It's going to make them hide from things, you know, like when I'm trying to feed them. So you kind of want to go in at them. Why is that? Because most of their prey come from the top and grab them up. So going in at your snake is a lot different. It gives them a different mode of behavior than coming in from the top. So front opening enclosures are important, not necessarily necessary, but it's gonna be healthier for your snake because they're gonna be less stressed out. Now the other thing that you need to do is create a lot of clutter in front of and between the hides because they want to feel like they're hidden as they're moving through their enclosure. They don't want to be seen. They want to be able to navigate that space without feeling like they're exposed. Like I said, they're reclusive. They like to hide a lot. These aren't snakes that come out and roam around a whole lot. So they like to hide. And if they can't hide and they're constantly exposed, they're going to feel threatened. They're going to be stressed out. They're going to start refusing meals and you're going to start seeing body conditions change. So it's important that you make them feel secure in that enclosure. Now, my point about glass enclosures is, you notice on glass enclosures, the sides are all open. So on my enclosures, I have foam pads that I put around the entire enclosure, even over the top, and that helps me keep my humidity inside. But the main thing it does is lets my ball python feel more secure, right? They feel like nothing can see in from the sides, from the back, all these different ways of block. So all they have to worry about is the face, where you kind of gotta have that open so you can see them. So that's another way to make them feel more secure. Is you can wrap your entire tank if you have a glass enclosure, and it's gonna give them just give them a flat background. They don't need nothing fancy. I have a top opening enclosure that I can't even give away. I'm gonna put it out to the curb this week. Yeah, top open enclosures are not ideal for any reptile. Most reptiles are swooped in from the top and taken away to be eaten by birds. A lot of their predators are going to come from the top. So that's why it's important, I think, in making your animal feel secure, to have a front opening enclosure. Now, like I said, it's not necessary to have a front opening enclosure when you get your snake. But as soon as you can, move to one. So yeah, okay, so we did clutter. Humidity. That's a huge problem in the ball python community. And in the social media forums, it's all the time. And the other the thing about social media forums is you have to be really careful getting your information from there because everybody in there is an expert. Somebody might have bought a snake 6 weeks before you bought a snake, and now they've watched some YouTube videos and they think they're ball python experts now, and everything they do is perfect husbandry. And as I'm sure it does happen, 95% of the time, that's not the case, right? They got some information, they learned something, it makes sense to them, and now they want to have authority on the subject. So you have to be careful about accepting, these weird pieces of advice from people on social media. You need to follow snake keepers, people who have been doing this for a long time, that have experience with health issues, that have experience with keeping, preferably several years of keeping ball pythons. When you go into places like ball pythons for beginners, and you go into pages like that and you're asking them questions, you're not going to get a lot of good info. There might be one guy in there who's brave enough, that's kept snakes for years, that's brave enough to even make a comment. I don't comment on those things personally because it just doesn't do the keeper any good, doesn't do the snake any good. Unless I see some really horrible and I just have to step in. But I usually don't. I stay out of that because it's full of bad advice and I don't want to be grouped into that. I try to give the best advice that I can, and what has worked for my ball pythons and my other species. So stay away from social media. Don't go right there and post and ask these people all these questions. Your ball python is a very, very hardy snake. So you likely have time, even if you're making mistakes, you likely have some time to make those mistakes and learn from them. But the easiest way to learn is to go find a channel of somebody like myself or Bob or Dave or Wickens Reptiles, Adam Wickens. Like, go find somebody like that. Watch their videos about ball pythons. Watch their videos about the animal that you own, and go from there. Okay, because these guys have been doing this for a long time, long time. So again, stay out of social media because it'll probably cause your snake more harm than good. Okay, and your self-esteem. Just save it. You don't need it. Right? Is this coffee done? Oh, need some more coffee.
Supposed to be ready yet?
No. So the other thing. What are you doing back there? Chilling. You guys can see, look, he's just like, this dude, man. The snake is so cool. They came with my snakes when I got them. When I got the chance to get a large front opening on a 200, I jumped at it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I did too, Candy. That's a good point. That's a good point. So a lot of times for my small snakes, I do go to like the bigger box pet stores, and I'll buy up their enclosures, their front opening enclosures, the 40 gallons specifically. I build my own. My friend Cody built these 3 over here, but I've been building my own enclosures. Like, let me see if I can get you to go to the other side of the room. I got 3 of them sitting here I'm not done with yet. See that? So those are 3 more, another 3 stack that I'm getting ready for the reptile room. The PVC is obviously the best enclosure to keep your ball python in because it's going to keep your humidity up. It's going to keep your temperatures in a lot better, and it's a lot less work for the owner, for the keeper. And it's a lot less worry because people have a hard time keeping humidity up. And one of the reasons that happens is because they have glass enclosures, or they're not covering the top of that screen lid. So all that humidity is just getting blown right out, right? So how do you keep your humidity up in a glass enclosure? Because I'm assuming people who just went and bought it from PetSmart, they probably bought this front opening enclosure they have with all this neat stuff in it that's probably not really for your snake, sorry. But throw away those stick-on hygrometer or thermometer things, throw those away, throw away that water bowl, because that water bowl gets nasty. The hides will be okay. But the humidity is important for a ball python. Humidity gives them good sheds, for one, because you want your snakes to have a one-piece shed, right? So that's important for humidity for them to be able to do that. Not that it's just going to be perfect every time. If your snake doesn't have a perfect shed every time, it's okay. It's okay. You're not a bad snake owner. Not yet. You haven't abused your animal. You're still trying. So pat yourself on the back, get up, and let's try again. So, keeping humidity in. If you have a glass enclosure with a screen lid, right? Put something over the top of that lid. Now they sell silicone mats that you can buy at pet stores that'll go over those. You might have to buy a couple because you probably bought a 40-gallon. And they don't really, I haven't seen any in my local pet stores that cover a 40-gallon. Anyways, cover that lid. Cover that lid. And get that aspen out of there because that's just a dry substrate. And it creates mold. So you want to get like a cocoa coir, a red bark. You want to mix your humidity in your substrate so it's not wet, but it's moist, right? If you're, we won't talk about belly rotches yet, or scale rotches yet. You want your substrate to be moist and not wet, right? And that locks in humidity, and that's going to provide humidity over time rather than just burning up all at once. So one of the other things that I do, that I have done in the past, I don't really do it anymore. I pretty much, because my reptile room is all humidified, it's good to go. But one of the things that I did before I was set up like that was I would take bowls of sphagnum moss, right? And I would put them underneath, I would place them on the hot side, kind of underneath the heating element or underneath the panel. So the heat would work on the water inside there. I put wet sphagnum moss. And what that does is kind of wicks that water out of there and allows that moisture to be released a little more slowly, and it helps keep it up in your enclosure. Now, sphagnum moss will mold, okay? Most sphagnum moss will. Anything organic is gonna mold. It's part of it. But the thing about using the bowl of wet sphagnum moss is you can just take that out without doing a whole entire tank change, throw it away, and once you start seeing that it's getting a little old, throw it away, put some new one in there, wash out the dish maybe, add some more water and put it back in there. And it's going to keep your humidity up higher than not having that in there at all. But the best thing to do is to make sure that your substrate is moist. Okay? And when I say moist, I mean moist. I don't mean wet. I don't mean sopping wet. That's bad. Because then your snake is sitting in water all the time and they get scale rot, and that could be very, very dangerous for your animal. Ball pythons in the wild, when they have monsoons in Africa, they will actually climb out of their dens and up onto small shrubbery and stuff like that to escape the flood. So, which is in my short about, that point is in my short about not bathing your ball python because they don't need it. Don't bathe your ball python. You don't take baths. The other thing is when you get your snake home, okay, so now we've talked about humidity, right? Did I cover humidity good enough, guys? Got any more questions about humidity? Okay, so the other thing about new ball python owners is they're not puppies, right? Snakes aren't puppies, they aren't kittens. So you can't bring them home and just give them toys, start playing with them, constantly handling them. This is going to stress your snake out a lot, okay? You need to let your snake sit in its new enclosure for at least a week. At least a week. Okay, Sonia. So instead of soaking your snakes, try, I don't know if you've watched my assisted shed video, but look at how I go about when I'm doing assisted sheds or when I see that they might be a little dehydrated. Because you can real easily, so like when they're looking dehydrated, what I like to do is put a cold bowl of water in their enclosure on the warm side, and that creates this humidity. And if you make it round, it helps a little more because they'll curl around that bowl and soak that water up without getting soaked, right? So that's one thing you could do. Cover and soak the towel, then I put them on the towel, they enjoy it. So what I do is I never put them in water, and I know you have African house snakes, and maybe that's a little different for them, right? But for ball pythons specifically, what I do is I just get my towel. I just use a towel and I put it in the sink. I get it nice and warm, and then I have a pad, or sometimes I use a pizza pan, to be honest with you. Set it on my lap, open that towel up, set my snake down in it, and wrap it up and let my snake try to get out, because the towel is creating that warm, humid environment. It's a little more humid. It's more like 100% humidity in that towel rather than what you may have in your enclosure. And that's going to loosen that skin on that snake almost immediately. Within minutes, it starts loosening that skin up and rehydrating that shed that needs to come off. And then the towel, the coarse feel of the towel itself, as they try to find their way out, they actually start pulling that shed off because of the coarse towel, because of the material that I'm using, right? So they actually start pulling the shed off themselves. And a lot of times I don't have to do much work with it. Other than, once I figure out they've been in there for 5-10 minutes, I don't let the towel get too cool, obviously. But when I start to feel that top get a little cool, and I tell you what I do to help hold that temperature in there, just a second. I'll pull them out and I'll see what condition they're in, decide if they need to go back in for another 10 minutes or so. But if you watch that shed video, it's just a shed video, you'll see exactly what I do. I use the water, I use the towel to let them crawl through, and I kind of hold the towel, and that pulls that shed off. Sometimes you got to work it with your finger. I don't lick my finger when I do it. I rub it on the wet towel and push it back because it grabs it easier. But that's a basic assisted shed where you're not putting your snake in a stressful environment, putting it in a bath or putting it in water, because it's kind of the same thing for them. Like, they can swim, they don't really enjoy being wet though. Not like that, not soaked. They enjoy humid environments. So that's what I do for my assisted sheds. That way I'm never stressing my snake out. And that humid environment that you get them in the towel, they're kind of used to that. So one of the things I've ran into though when I'm doing that is the top of the towel starts to become room temperature and it cools down because it's wet. So then I worry, is my snake gonna get too cold? So what I started doing was I have my soap towel, and like I said, I have an old pizza pan that I put them on, and then cover them in that damp towel, and I'll take another towel and set it right over the top of that. And that way it's got some insulation between the room temperature and the damp towel. That way that damp towel, you can actually keep them in there for 10 minutes rather than trying to rush them out because it's cold. So I'm not sure who else is here this morning. I started late, so I haven't had a lot of visitors, but that's okay because this is going to be up and it's full of great information for new ball python owners. Now, I do have Darwin's video. For you guys that watch the channel all the time, I just got all that uploaded to my cloud so I can edit it. I must have tried for 2 weeks to get these files to upload to my cloud, and it just would not. So I finally got that done. That's what I was working on when I lost my MacBook. So got to find that, figure out where that's at, and then I can get that episode out. In the towel and a rock and all that kind. Yeah, I don't put them in like tubs. They're not gonna necessarily enjoy it because they really just want to be left alone for the most part, but it's a lot less stressful. And a lot of times what I find is that when my snakes figure out what's going on, because that stuck shed will irritate them, right? So the ones I've had that had stuck shed problems, Dorothy was one of them. Came from Bob. And they're already stressed out from that, but then once I start pulling that shed back, they kind of get it. They're like, oh, we're shedding. This feels good. And then they start pushing against my thumbs and like pushing against the towel when I grab a hold of them. I've assisted shed snakes just like this, just pulling back on them. So, I mean, do what works for you. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong, Sonia. I don't have that type of authority. This is what I do, right? I don't use tubs. I don't give them any, like, we are just the towel, just the pan, just the snake. That's it. That's all I do. And you get it, Mojo. Hi, Mojo. So that's just my advice on assisted sheds. And I do have a video on the channel, an episode about assisted sheds with Dorothy. So feel free to go check that out. So what's something else? What's something else that happens when you get a new ball python? Blue and red lights. Blue and red lights. Always stay away from blue and red lights for your ball pythons enclosure, for any snake enclosure for that matter. Most snakes see in a red or blue. They can see that really well. So what happens is when you put that red light on there and you think you're giving your snake a little night light, you're washing out its environment and making it blind. Yep, essentially blind. So it stresses it out. It can't figure out where it's going, and now it's only relying on its scent, right, to figure out where their prey item is, if they're safe, and where their hide is, where they've been, where their trails are at in the enclosure. So you blind them out when you do that. So stay away from blue and red lights for your enclosures. You want to stick with white light or grow light. I've said this many times on the channel. And they're cool highs today. Yeah, change out the moss and they're cool highs today, Candy. The humid highs, right? Yeah, now I understand what you're saying. So for lighting, all you really need is I don't know if you have a Menards where you live. I know this gets broadcast everywhere, but Menards are our local big box hardware store basically, and they sell these lights. They're under cabinet lights. They're fluorescents or LED, fluorescent style, whatever you want to call it. Maybe I'm old. They're LED bar lights, and they have a grow option on one side. Yep. So that's what I put in mine. They're about, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks a piece, depending on what size I get. That's what I put in mine, and they help grow my plants. The UV is not for the snakes. Your snake does not need UV to digest its food. Ball pythons, which a lot of people don't know, actually can create their own heat when they eat. That's why a lot of times people get confused when they see they fed their ball python and it automatically goes to the cool side. That's fine. It's where it wants to be. It's choosing to be over there, right? Your snake isn't going to choose to go somewhere it's going to put it in harm that it knows. So they actually create their own heat to help digest their food. So little cool fact about ball pythons, a lot of people didn't know. So they don't require UV to eat, to digest their food. That doesn't mean you can keep them in a cold enclosure. We talked about temperatures. That's where you want them to be. Put in mind to supplement incandescent lights I have on their worm ends. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if you have different species, so maybe you can rely on that heat, because I know at night it doesn't matter. The temperatures can drop on the type of snakes that you have overnight, right? Whereas like with something more tropical like ball pythons, house snakes, you kind of want to keep that same temperature going. With strip lights are fine, because basically all you're trying to do is keep up the circadian rhythm of your snake. That's it. That's really all it's about. And snakes, ball pythons don't even require that. This is a luxury that you're offering them, because they get raised in tubs a lot of times. They're born and raised in tubs. So never really getting much light, just heat, food, water. Good substrate, but that's breeder. So heat panels sometime soon. Ooh, heat panels are rough to find sometimes. You gotta get them when you can. I have some right now. I've got one in each one of these enclosures. Here, I'll show you. I think we've seen them last week. And like I said, I was serious. Go look online. I'm probably one of the only people in the country that has some of these right now. Well, not one of the only people in the country, but you get what I mean. Like, they're really hard. Do you want to read the instructions?
She does.
They're really hard to find. They are really, really hard to find. So as soon as you see them, if you plan on getting one, as soon as you see them available, buy it. Buy it. No, the money, I mean, I can't tell you what I paid for these, but they're generally about 100, 120 bucks, 130 bucks. You know what I mean? I didn't quite pay that for these because I bought a lot of them because I know that they're hard to get a hold of. Let me pull this back a little more. And Mojo, I guess he's my Vanna White today.
Petty.
If you guys want, I guess I could pull one out real quick. I know we're past 10 o'clock right now.
The heat panel?
Yeah. Nola, you want to grab me a heat panel there real quick? Mojo's going to knock the camera over while I'm trying to show you something important. So that's your basic radiant heat panel right there.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. And what it does is it has coils inside, and I hang them upside down in my enclosures. And it's a even distribution of heat, so your snake won't get burnt, right? Going up to it, curling up around it. Cord goes in the back, and it's got this cool little, I'm advertising the heck out of these panels for these people, and they're not paying me. But it's got a little clip in the back for the heat panels or for the cord. But yeah, heat panels are, as soon as you can get them, Candy, I would jump on that and get it. Heat panel to me is probably the safest and best way to heat your reptile enclosure. And just in case you guys are wondering, for my 4x2x2s, I use 80-watt heat panels of these. For this one back here, it's going to get a 120. Yeah, it's pretty big enclosure though, so it needs to have that. And she's a very, very tropical snake. I bet you can't wait to see her. Anyways, I think it's about time for me to go too. I hope I covered some good information this week. I hope this turns into something that maybe future viewers can go back and look at and get some helpful advice from. Again, don't listen to the people at Petco. They have horrible advice for the most part. Find us on YouTube. There's lots of keepers out there, so with great advice, and people with experience been doing it for a long time. So that's going to conclude our live stream this week. I'll be more organized next week. Hopefully I find my MacBook and we can make another cool episode. All right. So until next time, take care, stay wild, keep your feet on the ground. See you, everybody.